Hello, and welcome to the Teaching Our Kids podcast, a place for parents and teachers and everyone in between to learn about how kids learn. Becky and I are here today, and we want to talk about extracurricular activities and kind of socialization in public school and unschooling. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I always look up like some definitions on Wikipedia before we start. They define extracurricular as activities performed by students outside of the normal school curriculum. Usually voluntary, social, philanthropic.
Yeah, look at you with the multiple syllables.
And they often involve peers of the same age, a lot of extracurriculars. That's another note I wanted to put in there, because I know we talked about
So what about some examples, Ash?
Clubs like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, sports, different interest groups, like if you went to a bird watching group, or there's a lot up here in Harford County. There's a lot of 4-H clubs, which are awesome.
What's that?
That is Future Farmers of America. And they do a lot of, it's not just about farming. It's just science based, but there's a lot of farming, cooking, like when you have the Harford County Farm Fair where they have all the animals, and those students will get to show their animal that they helped grow, and the milk that they get from the cows. And my one buddy at school, her kids do it, and it's pretty cool. I might try and get my kids in on it.
It's funny, just as a homeschooler and an unschooler, for me, and maybe also because I wasn't in a ton of clubs personally as a kid in school, when I think extracurricular, I just immediately think sports.
Well, that's that's what a lot of people mostly think of, sports. That's like the default,
right?
I agree. And that's definitely the big one. And up here, a lot of it is not necessarily through my kids' school. A lot of it, there's a rec center.
Right. It's all recreational.
Some schools have stuff, but that tends to be more about when they get to middle school and high school. A lot of the extracurriculars are at the school. But elementary school, it's more like it has to be
through the recreation.
It's a lot of volunteer driven stuff for elementary school. So
I wonder why that is. Isn't that interesting? Like, it kind of seems like it's a great time to kind of get kids together at a younger age, right? With their peers and do those things that they don't have the opportunity to do in school. I've always wondered.
Volunteer and less.
Right. Like I did cheerleading through recreation when I was in elementary school. But like you said, once I hit high school, it was cheerleading through the high school.
The high school would do it. And the coach, they probably paid the coach.
Right.
Right.
She was the gym teacher, so she did get paid.
Yeah. So that's, and I kind of drug my feet because I don't know, maybe I'd call it laziness, but I didn't really want to get my kiddos in. We didn't do a lot of stuff.
Don't shame yourself. That is not laziness. That is living a slow lifestyle that is healthy for everyone in your home.
Well, and I'm not lazy. Like, we still took them and did a million things, but I just didn't get them any organized extracurricular activity. I didn't pay. The first year I tried, I got Harry in baseball, and they canceled it for COVID.
That's the same with Tegan. So I signed him up for the Little League here in Hamden, and they shut it down for COVID. But we were the same way. I think, there's kind of two schools of thought. One school that says put them in as much as you can, get them as much exposure as possible, but that leads to a lot of go, go, go.
Burnout.
Burnout at an early age. And that doesn't, I think that there's a lot more recently that talks about and promotes living a slower way of life and just allowing kids kind of the space to do things, especially when they're enrolled in traditional schools. They've already got a hectic schedule outside of summer, but they've got the hectic schedule of getting off to school, coming home, getting this homework done, and that leaves really little time for family. If you add extracurricular into that, or too much extracurricular, then you're kind of teaching that hustle till you die mentality at a really early age. So I think it's to each their own, right? And if you've got the stamina for it, great, good for you. But I'm right there with you. Like, less is more for us.
Yes, peaceful. I prefer to be, and like just always going is exhausting.
It's nice to wake up and say, what are we going to do today? And
Right.
not have our schedule already built for us.
Exactly. And another note of this, sometimes I feel guilty because people are that way in this. So often, like, kids play soccer from like the moment they come out of the womb, and they've been playing soccer forever, and then they're going to be like really, once I do eventually get my kid around to mine, I've gotten Harry into basketball, and he's not as experienced as some of these kids that have been playing basketball for a long time, and so it gives him like a little bit of a deficit. But these kids also, talking to another parent who did this with soccer, they burn out. And then they're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
It's not
When
interesting
they
to them.
get to the point where it would start getting more competitive and more like, when you're going into middle school and high school, and then they're like, I'm so sick of this. I get, because you've been running them to do it forever. So it's, I mean, they don't always burn out. Some kids, would live, breathe, die their sport forever. But, it's interesting. And, yeah, I don't know.
I think if parents are just aware of that and don't regularly think that just because you have children, they have to be
doing
signed
something.
up, that you don't have to give your child something to do. Like, children will do what they want, just like we do what we want. They'll wake up and say, today I'm going to build a fort, if they had the space to do it. We just got Tegan enrolled, and this past season, soccer season, he did a recreational soccer league, but it was really low key. It was just 1 day a week for an hour and a half, and it wasn't exactly what we were looking for, but it was a really good opportunity for him to like enter the sport, kind of learn about the sport. He didn't get a lot of coach instruction because it was so laid back.
It was by volunteer.
Now we are going into a travel league where he will practice twice a week and have a game on Saturdays. And like, it was a big thought and idea, and I'm anticipating it because that's a big commitment for us. Even like living this slow unschool life, like, I'm not having a ton of commitments already. Like, that's big. Having to be somewhere 2 times a week and once on the weekends. I mean, we're going to do it. I think he's going to love it. He's going to get this one-on-one instruction that I know he's really looking for, and he's verbalized wanting to learn the sport better. So we're excited for it, but just like you, it kind of took us some time to make that commitment. And he's going to be 9 this year, so it'll be the first real one.
That's the hard part, though, because when you get into that, I mean, and he seems like a super athletic dude, so I think it will be like he's good at picking up, like we talked about with the learning styles, the kinesthetic stuff quickly, and he thrives off of that. So I think it'll be good for him. Harry's not as much that. It's tougher, and when you get older, and these kids have been doing it, and they're just good. It's crazy. So we were talking about, he's had 2 decent teams, and then we were talking about this past year him wanting to like continue and kind of get better, and like, what can we do? And I said, well, we can do a camp. And he was
there
like,
you go.
He was poo-pooing. He didn't want summer camp, and I'm like, it won't be one that you're there the whole summer. You're not going to give up your whole summer.
Right.
But the best bang for my buck was he's going to go for a week in July, and it's all day. It's from like 9 to 4.
That's some serious basketball knowledge.
It's 4 days, and he's there. He'll have lunch, So I'm excited for him. I think it'll be cool because we don't ever do summer camps. I'm usually the camp. I
Right.
I
Exactly.
run in around here and do my unschooling in the summer.
Right.
That's pretty much what goes on. So, but it's just a week, so that'll be cool. I'm excited for him, and then I'll have some time with Lily, which I know she will like. Just her.
That's going to be great.
Yeah. So, and for Lily, we've gotten her into the gymnastics. There's at our rec center has a heavy duty gymnastics program. Those aren't volunteers. They get paid.
Right.
It's still very exploratory. Like they go and they do. It's not very intense. The other
It's
thing
not
is
competitive yet. You mean
no.
it's still just
But if
learning
I
the skill.
wanted her to, if she like really loved it and wanted to get competitive in it, I would have to register year round.
Yeah.
They have a session, then I'd ready for the next session, next session, next session.
Mm-hmm.
Like she would always have gymnastics once a week because it's a once a week thing pretty much. But I can't, I don't know. I feel like it's more than I want to do. So usually when Harry's doing basketball in the winter, I did her for gymnastics. Mm-hmm. And then in the spring, like we didn't do anything in the spring. Harry didn't want to do baseball again. So we skipped that. And it's like one thing at a time we try and do. I know some other people do a sport and scouts, and just so many different things.
And life and birthday parties. And
yes, and it's all like every week. Or every day of the week, they have a different thing to go do. And I'm just like, how do people do this when they have like 5 and 6 kids?
No.
I only have 2. I can't even imagine
well, I have to say,
each kid having like 3 activities at the same time. It hurts my brain.
We got Callan enrolled in a nature class this like fall. And so we'll have both kids in something. And I'm really hoping that maybe the soccer practice and the nature school land on the same day so that we can just like have the rest of the week to breathe a little bit. So we're not committed, 4 days a week. Yeah.
Good luck.
But I want to say that I like that you pointed out that you give your kids the option. I think that's really important that kids are allowed to say what they want to do, and that if they need a break and they say like Harry said, I'm not ready, I don't want to do baseball, that it's not forced on them, because I think they know what they like and they know what they need at the time, and some parents make that decision for their kids, and like you mentioned previously, that can lead to burnout or them just really growing like a hate for something that they once enjoyed.
I mean, I've seen it the other way too, though, where the parent asks the kid, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? And the kid's like, yes, yes, yes. I'm like, I don't present all the options because I'm not going to give you all these options.
Tegan would probably say yes to everything.
Yeah, like you like get just like like say they were doing like a play in your neighborhood. They're like, oh, we'll sign you up for this, and you're doing soccer and nature club, and it's just a lot. So so a lot of the stuff for extracurriculars, especially for elementary, are kind of the same for unschooling and public school, because we both kind of outsource. It's not through school mostly.
I will say there are, if there's anyone listening that is kind of exploring this homeschool idea, there are quite a few homeschool classes or recreational like groups. I don't know what you want to call it, groups, yeah, that offer homeschool hours as well. Oh, so there's, for example, like the Irvine Center in Owings Mills, this class that Callan is doing is something that children can do who are enrolled in traditional schools outside of traditional school hours, but then they have a homeschool option where this is something that's done, during traditional school hours.
At the gymnastics at the rec, they also have a homeschooling class.
Right.
So it's open during the school day for anybody who can get it.
Exactly. Yeah. So it allows you to incorporate these extracurricular activities during your day, which is nice.
It is
for us, because like from 4 o'clock hits and all hell breaks loose.
Right. And you just would be home dealing with
Yes.
it, not running around.
So
Especially
like,
when you still get that little baby.
right.
Ooh.
So it's the options are available. We've got an art class down here. I can't remember the name of the. Anyway, it's in the city, and she does instruction outside of school hours and offers homeschool options.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because the homeschool community is growing so much that people are really responding to that,
Right.
and beginning to offer more things to us. So
Very cool.
and
And
definitely keep that in mind.
very cool. So the other little thing I want to touch on about this, which is kind of going to switch us off a little. Before I go on that other part, the other thing, there is some extracurricular events through school that I would consider like school events. Like the PTA does a lot of planning. We had an end of year Bullseye's Backyard Barbecue. And so it's, like carnivals that they used to have at my school growing up. But it wasn't a carnival. We just had like yard games, and they had a food truck and an ice cream truck, and everybody, the whole school gets together to socialize basically, and
Right.
like celebrate being in school, and you can see your teachers outside of school. And that
I
kind of
definitely consider that extracurricular.
Yeah.
And I think it's, a good opportunity for you to be around all of your parents and
Right.
kids being around the kids without being committed to like a goal, right? Like
Right.
it's just together to celebrate.
Right. And so, yeah, so that's another, like, and other things like just play dates even could be, or like going to birthday parties. I know that's like, it's activities performed by students outside of the normal school curriculum. So that's what it said it was.
Well, I think one of the benefits of this, which is like kind of what your next topic is extracurricular activities offer an opportunity for kids to socialize.
Yes.
Outside of their traditional schooling hours, whether that be traditional school, homeschool,
Yeah.
unschool, whatever it is. They're able to get together with their peers with a goal in mind outside of school.
And yes, and that socialization, we've talked about this before, but I looked up that definition again, and it's basically the process of internalizing the norms and ideologies of society by learning and teaching. And so it's basically like learning about relationships and societal norms is what socializing is. And that's kind of what you do when you do all these activities with your peers. And I know that's one of the things I want to talk about with the homeschooling, unschooling, because a lot of people, that's their biggest thing. How are you going to socialize your kids?
Well, let's be honest. It is one of the most traditional misconceptions.
I agree.
Right? That is what my mom used to say to me about homeschool kids, which is so funny. I have to have this conversation with her. She used to be like, homeschool kids, they're just weird. They're just weird because they're unsocialized, Becky. They only socialize with adults, so they just don't really know how to work around their peers, which couldn't be further from the truth.
It's just her ideal of socialization in main schools. It's a different way to go about it. So.
Right. And if we're honest, if we go back through some of the discussions that you and I have had in previous podcasts where you've talked a lot about what happens in traditional school, right? Like the fact that teachers have to stick to a curriculum and push children through a curriculum at a certain rate so that they can keep up with test scores, right? So they can make sure to meet that mark so that funding doesn't get ripped from the school. That doesn't necessarily allow for as much socialization as one may think a child can get in a classroom. Now, I'm not saying that children in traditional schools don't have opportunity to socialize or more opportunity in some situations than homeschoolers to socialize with their peers, because they do get together in a room of children of 20 to 30 kids every single day, Monday through Friday at least.
Right.
which is more than we do. However, when my children are doing their day-to-day schooling activities, they are not ever restricted to communicating with another person,
Right.
for the most part, unless, you know, it's like common etiquette. Don't talk to me while I'm talking to someone. We also do a really good job, I personally think, of just being social with other homeschoolers. So
You're very
while,
purposeful about your
yeah,
socialization. Whereas when you're at school, it's kind of like you're at school. Yeah, you're talking at lunch, or and the teachers make purposeful socialization in their classrooms, but it is very restricted. But yours is very like life skill orient, purposeful. Like I don't know,
I
they
mean, we've
learn how
got a
to.
group of like 5 families that we used to get together with regularly. We haven't been spending a ton of time with them during the summer because it's too hot to be outside and we're not a member of the same pool. However, these like we were getting together 3 times a week
Right.
sometimes and just let our kids play outside. And that is, I mean, for like 3-4 hours. I mean, talk
Right.
about optimizing socialization, right? Like kids are probably doing the most socialization on the playground at
Right.
school.
Yeah.
And where they're only getting, you know, 20 minutes to do that. In traditional schools, we had quite a bit of opportunity around that, with our group. And there are tons of homeschool groups that we've got a girl here. I think she's in the 10th grade. She lives in our neighborhood and she goes up to, I want to say it's like the Owings Mills area. And I can't remember the name of the homeschool group, but she does like a once a week, maybe it might be twice a week, where she goes up and just kind of hangs out with other homeschoolers. And they might have organized activities that they do. So it's kind of like a school for homeschoolers.
Yeah, like a place for them to go and have that socialization. Like I know some other older homeschoolers, they even have proms
Right.
and like sports teams, even like a
Mm-hmm.
cheerlead. You know, like it doesn't necessarily have to be the rec or whatever. It could. There's still like little groups that come together and do
I
those
think if
things.
anybody talked to my kids that didn't know them, and if I asked them, do they seem sheltered or like
Right.
they're
Well,
under
weird. That's
socialized,
weird.
under socialized or weird, like they
Yeah.
only know how to talk to adults, that that would be a resounding no.
Yeah.
Um, my kids have opportunities to hang out with the neighborhood kids, so they've got kind of like their 2 groups of friends, just like traditional schoolers do. Um, let's say the myth has been debunked.
Yeah.
Homeschooled children are not under socialized or weird. I
Yeah.
mean, I think.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And if anything, I mean, you also get more chances to talk to, like this said about the extracurricular. It's often with peers of the same age, and maybe they're even can have some more advanced because they talk with more different, older, younger. Like it's a bigger spread when you get some of them together too,
Yeah,
because
they're
they're not
not
all the same age.
restricted to kids of just their age. You know, we've got our homeschool group has children from my baby's age, who's 1, up
Mm-hmm.
to 9 years old. And there are 2 families of 4. So there's 8 kids plus 2 families of 3. That's 6. That's 14 kids. I think it's about 16 or 17 children in total that
Yeah,
range from
that's
1 to
awesome.
9. So
Yeah,
it's a great
spread of.
opportunity for them to kind of work together and learn from each other. They teach
Mm-hmm.
each other to read, do math, all sorts at
Right.
different levels.
It's very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, let's see. What else did I want to mention? Oh, the other thing, that big word that I said in the beginning, the philanthropic, which is kind of like when, like being charitable. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you do, like a lot of the fundraisers for school, one of the big ones, that it's still, I would still consider it extracurricular, but they do the Kids Heart Challenge, which when I was in school was called Jump Rope for Heart.
Oh, nice.
And so they raise money for the American Heart Association, and that's very philanthropic. I hope I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
that word right.
You
Um,
are.
but you know, so it gets the kids out learning how to give and raise money for the charity, but also they have like their social time together, working on that as a group, like their
Mm-hmm.
group of peers is working on that together. So that's another little. I just wanted to put that in there too of another example of a extracurricular, get the
That's
philanthropic side.
Sorry, cut you off multiple times today.
All good.
That's one area that I think I need to spend more time in.
I want to as well for my kids.
We generally, this isn't, I wouldn't classify it as philanthropy, but it is being a good citizen, I suppose. Like, we do a lot of trash pickup in our neighborhood because we live in the city. So you can imagine the bus stops are usually pretty nasty. The skate park is pretty grody.
I know one that you do though with them. You guys always do the Heat It to Beat It.
Oh yeah, we do Heat It to Beat It.
That's an example that.
I mean, we didn't do that this year. We've been getting farther away from that.
But you still taught, you've done that with them, so it's like a.
Yeah, but I do think it's something that is really important to teach kids to to give a part of their time themselves towards their community, because it just teaches them to be a great human and an active member of society, which they we don't regularly learn about. It's not a part of curriculum. It's not it's just something that we have to pay more attention to in my house. But I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, that's that socialization, that ideologies of society, and that's a big part that definitely so many people don't. I feel like some people just do it for show and like, oh, look at me, I'm helping.
Well, I know it's it's definitely like a part of Scouts. It's probably a part of church if you go to church. So there are plenty of opportunities for kids to be exposed to that, but it's got to come from the home,
right?
In my opinion, if the parents aren't, it's just like, I'm not going to have kids that read if they don't see me reading,
right?
So they're going to be like, why are you making me pick up trash if I'm not picking up trash? So I think that leading by example is the best way to teach kids. So yeah.
All right. Well, that is awesome. I don't know what time we're at here, but I think that's pretty good for our extracurricular socialization, public school.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes.
Good chat.